Sometimes life doesn't send you a calendar invite before it changes everything. It just shifts, and you can feel it in your spirit before you can explain it in words. Your nights start to whisper, your mornings feel lighter, and suddenly, you know you're not walking toward the end of something. You're walking into the beginning of the best chapter you've ever lived. There comes a time in your life when you realize the storm doesn't have to end for you to find your calm. The world around you may still be chaotic, the winds may still be howling, and the waves may still be crashing, but inside there is a stillness, a strength, a deep knowing that cannot be moved. This peace is not borrowed from perfect circumstances. It is grown from the soil of your own resilience. It is the kind of peace that doesn't depend on the weather because it lives deeper than the surface where the weather rages. You didn't get here overnight. There was a time when uncertainty was your greatest enemy. The not knowing would keep you up at night, tossing and turning, running through every possible outcome, every what if and what then. Your mind used to be a battlefield, and you mistook anxiety for preparation. You thought that if you could just think enough, worry enough, plan enough, you could control it all. But life has a way of teaching us the limits of our own hands. You learned through loss. You learned through moments when the floor gave out beneath you and you had no choice but to fall. You learned when the call you were waiting for never came, when the opportunity you thought would change everything slipped away, when people you trusted walked away without warning. Those moments broke something in you, but they also built something. They built a quiet confidence that whispers, "I have been here before and I am still standing." Unshakable peace doesn't mean you never feel fear. It means you have learned to feel fear without letting it decide for you. You have learned to sit with uncertainty without needing to demand an immediate answer. You can be in the middle of the unknown and still breathe fully, still speak softly, still trust that even here, in this in-between space, you are exactly where you are meant to be. And here's the secret: this peace isn't given to you, it's forged. It is earned through the fires you thought would destroy you. Every heartbreak, every setback, every season of confusion was a forge, and you were the metal. At first, you resisted the heat. You fought it, cursed it, begged for relief. But in time, you began to see that the very things you wanted to escape were the things shaping you into something stronger. You see, the reason uncertainty no longer owns you is because you have survived it too many times to believe it's your ending. You've lived through days when you couldn't see the next step, and somehow the ground appeared under your feet anyway. You've seen closed doors lead to better ones you didn't even know existed. You've seen what you thought was a loss turn out to be protection. You've seen the wrong turn lead you to the right place. So now, when life takes away the map, you don't panic. You remember. That memory is the anchor. The times you thought you'd drown but didn't. The nights you thought would never end but did. The heartbreaks you thought you'd never heal from but have. These memories have become the evidence you carry with you, the proof that the unknown has never been empty. It has always been full of unseen paths. This is why your peace is unshakable. It's not naive optimism. It's not pretending that everything will always be easy. It's a mature, steady knowing that you will be okay no matter what. That doesn't come from books or advice or someone telling you to just have faith. It comes from living through the kind of nights that faith was the only thing you had left. And when you reach this kind of peace, something shifts. You stop rushing decisions just to escape discomfort. You stop accepting things that are beneath you just because they're familiar. You stop mistaking movement for progress. You can stand still even in the fog because you trust the fog will lift when it's time. People may not understand you. They'll wonder how you can smile when your future isn't clear. They'll question why you aren't more worried, why you aren't scrambling to fix things. but they don't know what you know. They haven't seen what you've seen. They haven't learned that there are some things worth waiting for, and that rushing to fill the unknown often leads you to the wrong place faster. Your peace will feel strange to them because they still measure safety by certainty. But you have learned that certainty is fragile. The job can be lost. The plan can fall apart. The relationship can change. And yet, even when those things crumble, your soul can still stand. You have built a foundation they cannot see, a foundation made of every time you thought you couldn't make it, but did. When you carry this kind of peace, your presence changes. You become a safe place for others. People feel calmer just being around you because your steadiness reminds them of their own. You stop adding to the noise of fear, and instead you become a quiet voice that says, "It's going to be all right. I don't know how yet, but I know it will." And here's the beauty. This peace doesn't just hold you in hard times. It transforms how you move through good times too. You no longer cling to blessings out of fear of losing them. You no longer grip too tightly to moments, trying to freeze them. You can enjoy them fully because you know that even when seasons change, your worth, your joy, your future are not tied to one moment in time. There will still be days when the unknown feels heavy, when you wish for answers that haven't yet arrived. But even on those days, your peace remains, because it's no longer tied to what happens. It's tied to who you have become. You have become the kind of person who can walk into the dark and not feel lost, who can wait without wasting, who can trust without proof. That is what unshakable peace feels like. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's quiet, deep, and steady. And it carries you through the kind of uncertainty that used to break you. You've learned that the unknown isn't your enemy. It's the space where life does some of its best work. There comes a point in life when you realize the walls around you haven't gotten smaller. You've simply grown. The rooms that once felt comfortable now feel confining. The conversations that once lit you up now feel shallow. The relationships that once gave you life now feel heavy. It's not that something is wrong with them, it's that something has changed within you. You. Growth is a quiet thing at first. It begins in whispers, in subtle shifts that even you don't fully notice. You start thinking differently, craving more depth, more truth, more purpose. You begin to see through the layers of things you once accepted without question. You begin to feel an ache, not of loss, but of longing, not for more noise, but for more meaning. And without warning, the people and places that once felt like home no longer fit the shape of your spirit. This is not arrogance. This is evolution. It is what happens when you shed an old version of yourself. The old you could survive on surface-level friendships, small talk, and predictable routines. But the new you, the you that has been through the storms, the heartbreaks, the awakenings, cannot be satisfied with crumbs when you now know what a feast feels like. You notice it when you're in a room full of laughter, but it feels hollow to you. You notice it when the same jokes are told, the same stories repeated, and you realize your soul is hungry for a different conversation. You notice it when you find yourself holding back, shrinking yourself just to fit the mold of who people think you are, because they haven't met who you've become. And it's not that these people are bad, it's not that the places are wrong, it's simply that their season in your life might be ending. You've outgrown the version of yourself that needed them in the way you once did. The friendship that once carried you no longer meets you where you are. The place that once felt like a dream now feels like a stepping stone. The habit that once comforted you now feels like a chain. This shift can feel lonely because when you grow, you will not always grow at the same pace as the people around you. Some will understand and cheer you on. Others will question you, tease you, accuse you of changing. And they're right. You are changing. That's the point. The human spirit was never meant to stay still. But here is the hard truth. The more you try to keep yourself in spaces you've outgrown, the more you will feel a quiet suffocation. You will feel it in your chest, in your energy, in the way you look at the clock wishing you were somewhere else. The longer you stay in places that no longer fit you, the more you begin to lose the very growth you fought so hard for. Sometimes you will try to bring others with you. You will share what you've learned, hoping they will understand. You will extend your hand, hoping they will rise with you. But not everyone is ready to go where you're going. Not everyone can breathe the air of the mountain you're climbing. Some are meant to stay in the valley, and that is their journey, not yours to force. The beauty of growth is that it opens doors, but it also closes some. It will close the door to gossip, to environments where smallness is celebrated, to people who only loved you for the version of yourself that didn't challenge them. And as those doors close, you will walk into new rooms where your presence doesn't have to shrink to be accepted, where you can speak about the things that stir your soul without being met with blank stares, where your light is not too much. It is the very thing that keeps the room alive. You will also learn something else. The places that feel too small now are the very places that once taught you who you are. They served you once. They held you once. And for that, you can leave them with gratitude instead of resentment. Outgrowing someone or something doesn't have to mean bitterness. It can mean honoring what it gave you while knowing it's time to step forward. You may notice this most in the silence after the shift, when you start saying no to the invitations that drain you, when you decline the gossip sessions that used to entertain you, when you spend more evenings alone than you once did. At first, it may feel like loss, but in time, you will realize it is space. Space for new voices, space for deeper connections, space for the environments where you are not too big, too bold, or too deep. The truth is, the more you honor this pull, the more you begin to understand that your spirit has a compass. It will lead you away from what no longer grows you and toward what will. That pull is not random. It is not restlessness. It is your soul saying, there is more, and you are ready for it. Some people will follow, some won't. Some places will evolve with you. Others will remain exactly the same. But you will no longer judge your worth by who stays or where you fit. You will judge it by the freedom you feel when you are fully yourself. And that freedom will never live in spaces that require you to shrink. You will learn to bless what you leave behind, to release it without the need to explain, to understand that you are not abandoning anyone, you are answering your calling, and the people and places that truly belong in your next chapter will rise to meet you there. Until then, you walk forward with love in your heart, gratitude in your hands, and an openness to receive the people and spaces that match the size of your spirit now. And when you find them, you will know. You will know because you will feel yourself exhale. You will know because the conversations will feel like nourishment. You will know because you will not feel the need to shrink, edit, or hide the parts of yourself that have been waiting to be seen. That is when you realize the world hasn't gotten bigger. You have, and you are no longer afraid to live at your full height. There's a certain magic that happens when you stop performing and start living in your truth. The masks fall away, the filters fade, the versions of yourself that you created to be liked, to be accepted, to be understood, they dissolve. And when that happens, something beautiful takes place. You stop drawing in people who only like the performance, and you start attracting those who love the person. For years, you may have been surrounded by people who only knew fragments of you. They liked the smile you wore, but never noticed the weight you carried. They enjoyed your presence when you were easy to be around, but disappeared when you were in pain. They celebrated the highlight reel, but didn't want to sit through the behind the scenes. These are people who looked at you, but didn't see you. Being looked at is shallow. It's about appearances, impressions, convenience. It's about how you fit into someone else's story. But being seen, truly seen, is soul deep. Being seen means someone notices your silences, not just your speeches. They hear the words you don't say. They see the effort behind your victories. They don't just witness your light. They understand the darkness it had to break through to exist. The shift begins when you start honoring yourself. When you no longer dim your light to make others comfortable. When you stop hiding your wounds out of fear of being judged. When you speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. That's when you change your signal. You stop sending out an invitation to people who want the surface, and you begin sending out a beacon to those who crave the depth. This isn't about becoming more likable. It's about becoming more authentic. And authenticity acts like a magnet. It draws in those who match your frequency. People who don't just tolerate your quirks, but adore them. People who don't just stand beside you in the spotlight, but walk with you in the shadows. People who don't need you to be perfect to love you well. It's a strange and liberating thing when you realize you no longer have to earn your place in someone's life. You no longer have to twist yourself into shapes you were never meant to hold. You no longer have to measure your words or hide your emotions just to be easy for someone else to handle. The ones who truly see you won't flinch at your truth. They won't walk away when life gets messy. They'll lean in closer. You'll start noticing the difference in small moments. A friend who remembers something you mentioned in passing weeks ago. Someone who notices you're quieter than usual and asks how you really are, not just to fill the air, but because they genuinely want to know. Someone who celebrates your wins without making them about themselves. These are not small things. These are signs you are in the company of people who see you. And it changes how you love, too. When you are seen, you stop clinging to those who can't or won't meet you at that level. You stop making excuses for their absence or their indifference. You stop fighting for a place in someone's life when they've shown you they don't have room for the fullness of who you are, because now you know the right people will never require you to shrink in order to stay. You also learn that being seen is not about constant agreement. The people who truly see you will challenge you when you need it. They will call you higher. They will tell you the truth when it's hard to hear because they want to see you grow, not stay stuck. This kind of connection is rooted in respect, not just comfort, and it is rare. That's why it feels so different when it shows up. The most beautiful part is that you don't have to chase it. When you are aligned with who you are, when you live in your values, speak your truth, and walk in your worth, the right people find you. They are drawn to the light of your authenticity like travelers to a fire on a cold night, and you will know them when they arrive, because their presence will feel like an exhale. You won't have to guess where you stand. You won't have to pretend. You won't have to keep proving your worth. They saw it from the moment they met you. And yes, this also means some people will leave. Those who only looked at you for what you could do for them. Those who only wanted the easy parts of you. Those who needed you to stay small so they could feel big. Let them go. Their departure is not a loss. It is space being cleared for what you deserve. It is a different kind of joy to be surrounded by people who see you in your entirety. The ones who clap for you without envy, who comfort you without judgment, who believe in you without needing you to explain why you're worth believing in. These connections are not built overnight. They are built through presence, through listening, through showing up again and again. And once you experience them, you will never again settle for relationships that only skim the surface. Being seen also teaches you how to see others. When you felt the depth of someone truly knowing you, you begin to offer that gift back to the world. You start listening more closely. You start paying attention to what people aren't saying. You start valuing presence over performance. In this way, the people who see you don't just change your life. They change the way you move through life. You learn to recognize the look in someone's eyes when they've been waiting to be seen. And you know exactly how to show up for them because someone once did it for you. This is how the circle of authenticity grows, not through pretending, but through showing up as we are and making it safe for others to do the same. And so you realize being looked at may get you noticed, but being seen gets you loved. The ones who see you won't just be in your life for a season, they'll be in your story for a lifetime, because they didn't fall in love with what you showed them. They fell in love with who you are when the curtain is down, the stage is empty, and it's just you, unedited, unfiltered, and unapologetically whole. There is a quiet power that comes the day you realize you are no longer running after what was never meant for you. It's not a moment of loud celebration, but a still shift inside your spirit. One morning you wake up and your heart feels different, lighter, calmer, clearer. You are no longer exhausted from the chase. You are no longer stretching yourself thin to be enough for something or someone that keeps slipping away. You remember the days when you chased everything: opportunities, approval, love, even respect. You ran with everything you had, believing that if you could just be a little better, a little faster, a little more impressive, you would finally catch what you were after. But chasing has a cost. It drains your energy, your joy, and sometimes even your dignity. It leaves you breathless, not because you've arrived somewhere worth being, but because you've been running in circles, and then one day you see it, the truth. You realize that anything you have to beg for will never feed you. Anything you have to chase will always stay just far enough away to keep you desperate. You start to understand that the constant pursuit was not proof of how much you wanted it. It was proof of how little it wanted you. That's when the shift begins. You stop chasing. You stop running after people who don't value you, situations that don't honor you, and opportunities that require you to betray yourself just to get in the door. Instead, you plant your feet. You stand still, not out of fear, but out of strength. You begin to realize that the things and people meant for you will not require you to beg, bend, or bleed yourself dry to keep them. Choosing is different from chasing. Chasing says, I'll do whatever it takes to prove I'm worthy. Choosing says, I know I'm worthy, and I will wait for what is worthy of me. Choosing is deliberate, it is calm, it is the art of saying yes to what aligns and no to what diminishes you. At first, this new way of living can feel strange. You might feel the old urge to run, to push, to convince someone to see your value, but now you catch yourself. You remember the exhaustion of chasing. You remember how many times you've handed your power away, hoping someone else would hand it back. And you remember the disappointment of realizing they never would. When you choose instead of chase, something beautiful happens. Your life starts to fill with what is meant for you. You are no longer cluttering your days with people who drain you or opportunities that pull you off your path. You start attracting things that come toward you willingly, naturally, without force. It feels like the first deep breath you've taken in years. This doesn't mean you stop working hard or stop putting in effort. It means your effort is directed toward what is aligned, not toward proving your worth. You can still pursue goals, but the energy is different. You are moving toward them with joy, not desperation. You are building from a place of fullness, not emptiness. You notice this shift in your relationships first. You no longer fight to keep people who make no effort to stay. You no longer over-explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer settle for half love when you know you deserve the whole thing. Instead, you choose connections that feel mutual, balanced, and nourishing. You choose people who choose you back, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. You see it in your work too. You stop saying yes to every opportunity that knocks, especially the ones that require you to abandon your boundaries. You stop staying in rooms where your ideas are ignored until someone else repeats them. You stop measuring your success by someone else's approval. You choose projects that excite you, environments that respect you, and paths that feel right in your gut, even if they don't make sense to anyone else. And perhaps most importantly, you start choosing yourself. You choose rest when your body needs it, even if the world calls you lazy. You choose joy, even if others think you should be serious all the time. You choose to honor your needs, even if it means disappointing people who have grown used to your self-sacrifice. You choose to believe that you are already enough, and that anything you build from this place of wholeness will only add to your life, never complete it. There is a peace in choosing that chasing will never give you. Chasing leaves you restless, always looking for the next thing, the next person, the next fix. Choosing allows you to be still and trust that what is right for you will not pass you by. You no longer feel the need to grip life so tightly. You can open your hands knowing that what leaves makes room for what's better and what stays was meant to stay. People will notice this change in you. Some will admire it, others will be confused. They'll wonder why you're not hustling after every opportunity, why you're not begging certain people to come back, why you're not running yourself ragged to be seen. And the answer will be simple. You are no longer interested in being chosen by everyone. You are only interested in being chosen by what is right for you. The beauty of this shift is that the more you choose with intention, the more your life reflects your worth back to you. The friends you have are there because they truly value you. The work you do is work that matters to you. The love you allow in your life is love that feels safe, steady, and true. And you no longer mistake motion for progress. You are no longer running toward what depletes you. You're walking toward what fulfills you. And here's the truth you'll carry forward. When you stop chasing, you create space. Space for better things to arrive, space for deeper connections to grow, space for yourself to breathe. And in that space, you'll find a life that isn't built on desperation, but on deliberate choice. Because you finally learned that you don't have to run after what is meant for you. You simply have to stand in who you are and choose what chooses you back. There was a time when your dreams lived only on paper. Neat little lists in journals, scribbles on sticky notes, whispered wishes you made to the stars at night. They were beautiful, but they were distant. Something to think about when life got quiet, something to imagine when the day's work was done, something to tuck away when reality demanded your full attention. Back then, your dreams felt like a luxury, something you visited in your mind when the weight of the world wasn't pressing on your shoulders. You treated them like fragile glass, too precious to handle, too delicate to act on. And maybe deep down you thought they were too big for you, that someone like you could imagine them but not live them. But then something shifted. You started to see your dreams differently. They weren't random visions sent to tease you. They weren't distractions from real life. They were not accidents. You began to understand that your dreams were not just ideas. They were instructions, blueprints, roadmaps placed in your heart for a reason. You realized that the images that keep coming back to you, the vision of the life you want to live, the work you want to do, the love you want to feel, are not here to entertain you. They are here to guide you, and ignoring them isn't humility. Ignoring them is disobedience to your own soul. When you see your dreams as instructions, everything changes. They stop being maybe one day wishes and become I must mandates. You begin to feel a pull, not just a hope. You wake up thinking about them. You go to bed planning for them. You find yourself taking small steps, not because someone told you to, but because your spirit can no longer stay still. And this shift is not always comfortable. Instructions require action, and action means risk. It means leaving what is safe. It means stepping into the unknown without a guarantee. It means giving up the excuses you've rehearsed for years. I don't have the time. I'm not ready. It's not the right moment. When you see your dreams as instructions, you understand that the right moment is an illusion. The moment is now. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for the applause that might never come. You stop waiting for someone to come along and hand you the life you've been imagining. Because now you know your dreams are not meant to be handed to you. They are meant to be built by you. It's not about doing it all in one leap. It's about doing the next right thing. Your dream is asking of you. Maybe it's signing up for the class. Maybe it's writing the first page. Maybe it's sending the email. Maybe it's saving the money. The steps may seem small, but when you see them as obedience to the vision inside you, they become sacred. This is when you start to notice something else. Life begins to respond to your movement. The more you act, the more doors begin to crack open. The people you need start to appear. The opportunities you thought were impossible start finding their way to you. It's not magic, it's alignment. You've stopped treating your dream like a game and started treating it like a calling. And calling always calls back. Not everyone will understand. Some will think you've changed. Some will tell you you're unrealistic. Some will project their own fear onto you, and you will learn to bless them and keep moving because your dream is not their instruction. It was given to you, and you alone are responsible for answering it. There will be days when you feel tired, when you wonder if you misheard the call, when the weight of the work feels too heavy. But even then, you will notice something. The thought of quitting feels heavier than the thought of continuing. Why? Because once you know your dreams are instructions, you can't unknow it. You can't go back to pretending you didn't hear the call. The beauty is that you don't have to have it all figured out before you start. The instructions are rarely delivered in full. They come step by step. They unfold as you move. And every time you take one step in obedience to the dream, the next step appears. You stop needing the entire staircase before you take the first step. You trust that it will be built beneath your feet as you climb. You also stop comparing your pace to others. When you understand your dream is an instruction, you stop looking sideways to see how fast someone else is moving. You stop worrying about who got there first. You know your path is yours, your timing is yours, and your dream will not pass you by as long as you keep answering it. You start living with a sense of responsibility, not pressure. Responsibility because you know that ignoring your dream would be like burying a seed and never watering it. And you can't do that anymore. Not when you felt the pull this deeply. Not when you've seen how alive you feel when you are working toward it. The truth is, your dream is not just about you. That's why it feels so important. Your dream has the power to bless others, to inspire, to heal, to change the world in ways you may never fully see. And that is why it matters that you take it seriously. Someone is waiting for the thing only you can bring to life. And they will never receive it if you keep treating your dream like a hobby instead of an assignment. When you see your dreams as instructions, you stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I never try?" You stop treating your vision like an option and start treating it like an obligation to the highest version of yourself. And maybe that's the real shift. You realize your dream isn't here to make you comfortable. It's here to make you complete. And the moment you answer it, you are no longer just living, you are fulfilling. Once, the thought of something ending used to terrify you. You clung to relationships that had run their course, jobs that drained you, seasons of life that no longer fit. You convinced yourself that holding on was safety, that change was a threat, and that endings were proof that something had gone wrong. You didn't see that endings are not punishments, they're invitations. But that understanding only came after you walked through the fire and found yourself still standing on the other side. There was a time you thought you couldn't survive the heartbreak, the loss, the goodbye you never wanted to say. And yet you did. You thought the silence after a door closed would consume you, that life without what you had would feel empty. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, new life began to grow in the space the ending left behind. This is the truth you know now. You can survive what you thought would break you. More than that, you can rise from it different, wiser, and in many ways better. You've tasted rebirth, and now you know that every ending carries within it the seed of a beginning. Rebirth doesn't come wrapped neatly in joy. It comes through nights when you can't sleep, mornings when the weight in your chest feels like it might crush you, moments when you question who you are without what you've lost. But as the days pass, you notice the shift. The grief softens, the heaviness lightens. You find yourself laughing again, dreaming again, imagining a future again. And when you finally see yourself in the mirror, the new version of you, you realize that the ending didn't diminish you. It refined you. It stripped away what was false, what was stagnant, what was no longer meant to come with you into the next chapter. That's the gift of having tasted rebirth. You stop seeing endings as the final chapter and start seeing them as a turning of the page. You understand that the collapse of something familiar is often the clearing that makes way for something truer. You stop begging for things to stay the same and start trusting that the unknown can carry something even better. This trust doesn't mean you stop feeling pain when something ends. You're still human, loss still aches. But now you no longer confuse the ache with destruction. You've been here before. You've seen that pain is often the midwife of transformation. You've learned to stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this making space for? You've learned to stop clinging to the version of yourself that existed before the ending and instead lean into the version of yourself that is being shaped through it. You understand that life is not a straight line. It's a series of cycles, beginnings, middles, endings, and then beginnings again. And once you see that pattern, you stop fearing it. You start flowing with it. The endings you used to resist with all your strength, you now approach with a strange kind of reverence, because you know that what comes after an ending is not just a replacement for what you lost. It's often something you couldn't have imagined when you were still in the middle of what was ending. You know that sometimes you have to let something you love die so that you can become someone who can love even more deeply. Sometimes you have to walk away from what feels safe so you can finally experience what is free. Tasting rebirth has given you a kind of courage you can't fake. You've seen yourself rebuild. You've watched yourself create beauty out of ruin. You've carried yourself through storms you thought would drown you. That memory lives in your bones now, a reminder that you can do it again if you have to. And so, when life whispers that something is over, you don't fight it as hard. You still feel the sting, but you also feel the quiet hum of possibility underneath it. You trust that the same force that carried you through your last rebirth will carry you through this one. You've also learned not to rush the process. Rebirth requires the death of the old, and death takes time. You've stopped trying to leap from the ending straight into the new beginning without letting yourself fully grieve, fully release, fully close the chapter. You understand that it's in the empty space between the two that the real transformation happens. This is why you're less afraid now, because you've lived the truth that the end of one thing can be the beginning of the truest thing you've ever known. You've seen that the people, places, and dreams you thought you couldn't live without were often the very things keeping you from becoming who you were meant to be. You've also learned that rebirth doesn't always look like fireworks and grand gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as waking up one day and realizing you're no longer haunted by what happened. Sometimes it's noticing that you can talk about it without your voice breaking. Sometimes it's finding joy in the little things again, the sound of laughter, the warmth of sunlight, the feeling of breathing without heaviness. And when you reach that place, you carry something new into the rest of your life, a quiet knowing that nothing is the end unless you decide to stop moving, that no loss can erase what you've gained through becoming, that every ending is, in its own way, a doorway disguised as a wall. The fear that once kept you clinging now gives way to faith. Faith in your own resilience, faith in the cycles of life, faith in the mystery that endings are often the beginning of the story you were always meant to live. You have learned to release with gratitude even when it hurts, to bless the chapter that's closing because it brought you here, and to step forward into the unknown, not because you're certain of what's ahead, but because you're certain of your ability to rise when it comes. Because once you've tasted rebirth, you know nothing truly ends. It only transforms. And so do you. There was a time in your life when you moved through the world with a low hum of desperation in your chest. You wouldn't have called it that then. Maybe you called it ambition, drive, or the hunger to prove yourself, but deep down, it came from fear. Fear that if you didn't hold on tightly enough, you would lose what you had. Fear that if you didn't strive hard enough, you would be left behind. You measured your days by what you still didn't have, what still hadn't happened, what still wasn't enough. You chased after validation as though it were oxygen. Every accomplishment was a relief, but never a rest. Every achievement was a brief sip of water that only made you more aware of your thirst. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. Maybe it wasn't one moment. Maybe it was 1,000 small moments strung together. Maybe it was the heartbreak that made you realize nothing is ever fully in your control. Maybe it was the blessing you didn't deserve but received anyway. Maybe it was the slow dawning of a truth you had resisted for years. That desperation is not the same as devotion, and that chasing life in fear is not the same as living it in faith. Now your energy has changed. You still have desires, you still have dreams, but they no longer come with the frantic edge of needing to prove or force them into existence. You've stopped clawing at closed doors. You've stopped begging life to give you what you want in your timing. You've learned to breathe where you are. Gratitude has replaced desperation, and it feels different in your body. Desperation tightens you. Gratitude softens you. Desperation makes you grasp. Gratitude makes you open. Desperation comes from the fear of losing. Gratitude comes from the joy of already having. You've learned to see what is in your hands instead of obsessing over what isn't. You've learned that the way you hold your current blessings determines how ready you are for the next ones. You've learned that when you focus on what's missing, you miss what's present. And when you honor what's present, it multiplies. This shift has made you magnetic in a new way. People can feel when you are desperate, it pushes them away. But gratitude has a way of drawing the right people and opportunities toward you. It's not a trick, not a strategy. It's simply that you are no longer trying to extract from life, you are participating in it. You are meeting it with a full heart instead of an empty demand. You've also stopped confusing gratitude with settling. You're not grateful because you've given up. You're grateful because you've woken up. You can still dream without being discontent. You can still want more without despising what you have. You've found the balance between hunger and peace. Desperation is noisy. It makes you frantic, impatient, and reactive. Gratitude is quiet. It makes you steady, patient, and discerning. Desperation makes you jump at every opportunity. Out of fear, there won't be another. Gratitude makes you wait for the right opportunity because you know there will be more. In the past, you may have tolerated situations, relationships, or environments that didn't honor you simply because you feared you might not find better. That's desperation's voice. But now you've seen what happens when you trust your worth. You've seen what happens when you say no to what doesn't fit, not because you're certain of what's next, but because you know you are worth waiting for what aligns. That's gratitude's voice. It says, I am already blessed, so I don't need to compromise my peace to be blessed again. Your gratitude has also made you more present. Desperation lives in the future, in the what ifs and if onlys. Gratitude lives here in the now. It lets you taste your coffee instead of rushing through it. It lets you notice the sunlight on your skin, the sound of laughter in another room, the way a simple conversation can warm your day. These are the riches you used to overlook when you were too busy chasing something bigger. And because you live in this space now, you no longer measure your worth by what you acquire, achieve, or prove. You measure it by how deeply you live, how fully you love, how well you honor what's already in front of you. Gratitude also makes you braver. Desperation clings to the familiar out of fear of losing even the little it has. Gratitude trusts that even if you lose something, you are still whole. It lets you release without collapsing, change without panic, move forward without dragging the past behind you. This is why you can walk away from what's not meant for you with grace. You know you're not walking into nothingness. You're walking into space that life can fill in better ways. You're not trying to fill the space yourself with anything just to make the emptiness less uncomfortable. You can stand in the in-between, grateful for what was and hopeful for what's to come. And perhaps the most beautiful part of living in gratitude is that it keeps you from becoming hardened by life. Desperation can make you bitter when things don't go your way. Gratitude keeps your heart tender, open to beauty even in the midst of imperfection. You stop needing every detail to be perfect in order to enjoy the moment. You stop seeing life as something you have to wrestle with to win, and start seeing it as something you get to walk with in partnership. When you look back now, you can see the moments where you used to force, beg, and bargain with life, and you can smile at them because you understand why you did it. You were still learning. You were still trying to keep yourself safe in the only way you knew how. But now you know better. Now you know that safety comes not from grasping, but from trusting. You no longer live with your hands clenched in fear. You live with them open in faith. You can want more and still love where you are. You can hold ambition without letting it hold you hostage. You can receive without clinging, give without fearing scarcity, and move forward without dragging desperation along for the ride. Because now you've learned this truth, a grateful heart will take you farther than a desperate mind ever will. If even one of these signs resonated with you, hear me clearly. Life is not testing you anymore. It's trusting you. You have been refined by fire, softened by grace, and prepared for abundance. The best stage of your life will not arrive with fanfare and flashing lights. It will arrive in the quiet strength you now carry, in the people who love you without condition, in the work that feels like calling instead of labor. So walk forward with your head high, not because you've never stumbled, but because you finally understand every stumble was preparing you for this stage, and it is yours.